All right, welcome back to the Chase Homes podcast. Taping this on a Tuesday afternoon. A first timer, Christopher Powers, is here. Chris, good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
All good, Chase. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, man. How was your weekend? How was the watching the Open and everything else? Did you have a fun time doing that?
Of course, it's great. It's amazing. I get paid to do this. I'm very very thankful, and it was a great Open, of course. So it was a fun one to watch. It's always fun to get up in the morning and have a few cups of coffee and watch a major championship golf. So definitely a strong weekend.
What is your schedule like? How do you do it? Like, I take notes on all the stuff I watch. How do you take notes when you're watching a tournament play out and kind of get a feel of what you want to write about and what stands out to you? What is your process like over the weekend?
Well, for a major, I did get to go to the U.S. Open, which was nice.
Mm,
But like for the other majors where I'm watching from home, I'm usually doing a lot of the live blog and kind of just the random stuff that pops up that's kind of like blog worthy. Because when we have guys at majors, we kind of want them to focus on the bigger topics, and obviously they have access to the players when they're there. So those of us who do the majors from home kind of just fill in the blanks wherever, fun viral stuff that happens, good quotes, kind of peruse for that. And yeah, like I said, live blog. So you're kind of just following the action and waiting for stuff to happen, really.
But for you, do you like? Is there one guy where you're like, okay, I'm watching this. I'm gonna go back and see what's happening here. Is that something you focus in on a couple guys where just for your own personal watching, so you get a better feel for how they're playing that weekend and where they're at, and like maybe even going in where you're like, they were bad these last few weeks before. I'm really curious to see what they play like over the weekend.
I mean, from a gambling perspective, yeah, 100%. I have about 20 different guys I'm locked in on, and I've done plenty of research on before actually wagering on them. So yeah, I would say looking at it through a gambling lens, I absolutely have my favorites on the leaderboard, and I'm finding ways to follow their every shot, however I can.
Interesting. Well, what did you make of Cameron Smith's win over the weekend? Was it just as like it was just pretty dominant. It was a pretty wild weekend for him, and it just never really felt all that particularly close. Like Rory had this great weekend, and it'll just be kind of lost in the shuffle. But what did you make of his weekend, and were you surprised at all by it?
Not surprised by it. Actually, my biggest takeaway was, like you just said, it was kind of dominant, and he had that really couple bad decisions on Saturday trying to hit that shot out of the bunker, made a bad double. Usually, you make a double on the weekend at a major, that's kind of curtains for you. Your week's over. So to see him still come back and win was really impressive. So my takeaway was it could have been even more dominant the way he was playing, and he could have won by 4 or 5 shots had that double not happened. And then he made a couple other bad decisions down the stretch. So really impressive. And like you said, I think it's kind of got lost in the, what Rory could have done, what Rory should have done. And we're not really kind of giving Cam the credit he sort of deserves for that performance, especially on Sunday and on the back nine, where he kind of just took it in a pretty short period of time. He kind of stole the tournament away from Rory McIlroy.
Was that a surprise? Is Cam Smith someone that you've been expecting to have this kind of weekend for a while now, or was it the alternative there?
Not surprising at all. He has been that good, and in the majors as well. If everyone recalls, I believe it was the COVID Masters that Dustin Johnson won at around 20 under. Cam was right there, 15
Hmm.
under. He shot all 4 rounds under 70, which had never been done at the Masters before. And he did it and didn't win. So it was pretty impressive. Dustin just had the better week that week, sort of like Cam kind of had the better week than Rory this week. But we saw him dominate in Kapalua, that Tournament of Champions, way back in January. A couple other wins. He's kind of peaking. He's in that mode right now, late 20s, where guys kind of tend to peak and win a bunch of tournaments in a small period of time. So be interested to see next year, obviously, with all the crazy live stuff, and he's rumored to be going. So we'll see. He'll be back at the Open Championship. I would imagine he's exempt into next year with the win. So even if he does go to live, I think he'll still be invited back to that. So yeah, I think he's just kind of getting started here.
So you think he's he's at the early portion of his prime, and that big wins are coming. Maybe he's a good early bet for the Masters next year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a great history at the Masters, and a lot of people made the correlation between Augusta. Guys who play well at Augusta tend to play well at St. Andrews. I unfortunately didn't financially agree with that and didn't bet on Cam Smith this
Why do you
past.
think that is?
I think they both just kind of sort of engage the mind in a different way that these guys see, throughout the year on the PGA Tour. And I don't know, Cam's a creative player. He does bash the driver, but the way he putts and chips is kind of second to none really, and that usually plays pretty well at Augusta National and a place like St. Andrews.
Who was the biggest surprise for the weekend for you, both in a positive manner and in a negative manner?
Well, I would say negative. The way Victor Hovland played on Sunday was shocking because I know he's a percentages math type of guy, but he's also his best weapon is the driver, and he did mention he was kind of playing the percentages on the weekend, but he bashes the driver, and he kind of went away from that to a super conservative approach at St. Andrews, where everyone was kind of bashing driver and then just wedging it on or bashing driver on the green and trying to two putt for birdie. So pretty upsetting Sunday from him, but he'll be back. I think that was just that first time you get into the fire at a major, you turn into somebody different. And I think that's kind of what happened with Victor Hovland. So definitely surprising to see that. And then on the positive side, it's a good question. Cameron Young, I would say for sure. A guy like Hovland who did get into the fire at the PGA, and I thought it held up pretty well. I think he made a late double on like 16 or 17 at Southern Hills, but then birdied one of the last two holes coming in and still had a chance to get into that playoff. And then to see him get back into the mix here at St. Andrews, especially after he went over to play the Scottish Open and looked pretty bad, but he mentioned kind of the time change, the jet lag. It took him a while to get used to, and he got used to it pretty quickly. Obviously took the first round lead and did not fade away. And then to shoot 65 on Sunday and lose, everyone feels bad for Rory McIlroy. I feel really bad for Cam Young. You shoot 65 on Sunday at a major and you're in one of the last two groups, that's usually going to get it done. And he got clipped by one shot by the other Cameron.
What's next for Tiger Woods?
Quite the mystery, I would say. I think maybe we see him once before the Masters next year. He'll pop up at his Hero World Challenge. I don't know if he'll play. It depends on how he feels. That'll be in December. If he feels up for it, he'll play. That might be the only time he plays before Augusta. He said he's never going to play a full schedule again. And the St. Andrews thing, I know he said he'll probably play more opens, but that kind of felt like the end. I don't think it's the end, but I think we'll see him try to tee it up in the majors as long as he's eligible for all of them. So the Masters is life for sure. The Open is up until your 60s, and as long as you're competitive. U.S. Open he's no longer eligible for, unfortunately, and the PGA is also a lifer, so he can always go back to those three. So I think he'll play in the majors as long as his body holds up. But as for the other events, I don't know. That's such a mystery right now. I don't know if he wants the tournament reps. He said the biggest takeaway, he said it's so hard for him to get ready for these rounds. And that includes, after the round, he's got to get his body right too. So a lot goes into that. So I don't know. It's a mystery right now.
How did he look to you? Did he look over the weekend where it was about what he expected? It's just, is there one particular thing about his health that you think is just, he's just not going to get over it? Do you think there is reason for optimism that he could still win another major down the road? Like, what did you see health wise in the way he was swinging and just his performance and not making the cut again at the Open?
I thought he did look healthier than he did at Southern Hills. The weather obviously plays a huge factor in that. Like if it was cold, it was obviously unseasonably hot this past week in Scotland. If it was cold and rainy in the morning, I don't know how long he lasts, to be honest with you. He said it takes him so long to kind of get ready and get his body warm. I think the weather helped. And obviously it's a much flatter course. I know there's bumps and undulations and all that, but it's a flat links course, whereas Southern Hills was very Augusta-like and up and down. And that's hard on the leg. And he keeps saying he's he's in pain every day. And after that last back fusion surgery, he said he was pain free. And then, of course, this car accident happens, and now it just adds a whole new wrinkle to his pain. He's always in pain now. I don't think he'll ever not be in pain. I don't think he's gonna get healthier with age. So I don't know. The last two tournaments, he fought hard to make the cut at Southern Hills. That was really fun to watch. But then to see him go out Saturday morning and play the way he did, I don't know if he can hold up for 72 holes anymore.
Yeah, that's a bummer. There's just no other way around it. This is a bummer. But what's interesting too is that he obviously had that press conference and it was very firm. Like Tiger Woods is not going to live. Like that seems like just done, right? Like he is not going to make that jump, and that's not something he's going to walk back later, no matter how much money they throw at him. It seems like they got him to be not the spokesman, but just kind of the guy to hopefully stop the bleeding. Are you surprised that, like you mentioned, Cam Smith maybe making the jump and other big names potentially? Are you surprised that has not kind of pushed the momentum back or swung the momentum back towards the PGA Tour right now?
No, not surprised. I think with all the money involved, and especially Cam goes on and wins this thing, he drives his value up. No, not surprised. I think they're going to keep swiping guys. I have no information on who it's going to be, but I would imagine they'll get at least a few more top 10 players in the world pretty soon here. Cam might wait it out a little bit. He's going to be right there in the FedEx Cup. He might want to win that big prize and then make the jump. So no, not surprised at all. I am surprised to see how strong they're getting this quickly, but it appears they're not going anywhere.
Is it good or bad for golf that LIV is getting stronger and stronger?
I would say from our perspective, a content perspective, it's been really good. We've had a great past 2 months. I've never had so many people ask me about golf and what's kind of going on. People who probably never watched a golf shot in their life. It's just really struck a chord with the general public at large. So yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting. Well, what do you think is what do you think is the biggest thing the PGA Tour can do to kind of withstand the bleeding? What can they do to affect and change a lot? You mentioned the money, and obviously the money is a big part of this, but is there something that they can actually do in the short term to kind of shift the narrative and to kind of get these guys back on just the PGA Tour side?
I don't know about short term, but they do have three of the Justin Thomas and John Rahm and Rory McIlroy kind of on their side, and I think that's a very good thing. Those are the three of the best in the sport right now, three of the biggest draws. I would throw Jordan Spieth into that bucket as well. So if they can keep like a core 4 or 5 guys like they have right now, and let LIV kind of take the the aging older guys, that's a big win for them. But if they start picking off the Cam Smiths of the world, if they get a Patrick Cantlay or a Victor Hovland, and if they start picking off these college kids like it's rumored to be before they kind of get to the PGA Tour, that's going to be tough for them to withstand. And I think at some point there's going to have to be some kind of merger agreement. Rory McIlroy's already changed his tune on that, so that's tough. That was a tough blow for the PGA Tour last week as well. So yeah.
Man, that's wild. So it seems like this is not dying down, just like conference realignment in college football.
Yep.
This is just going to be a thing and something we just have. It's going to be unsettled for a while. That there will not be a conclusion anytime soon here. What with the majors coming to a close this season? What was your biggest major result surprise now that all the majors are done?
I would say Jordan Spieth not really challenging as much as I thought he would. I thought he kind of completed his comeback a year ago, even without a major win, and I think a lot of people thought that. And I thought he'd turn up at Augusta and play really well. He didn't have the best week. I thought he'd have a better week this past. I mean, he still finished in the top 10, but yeah, it's amazing how a guy who kind of ripped off 3 in a row. Same goes for Rory, ripped off 4 in a row early in their careers, and then it just gets harder and harder and harder, especially when you come as close as he has since. So I would say Spieth not really challenging for one. I know he was in the top 10 last week, and played okay in the other ones, but not seriously contending was pretty surprising to me.
Do you think he gets back? Do you think that did you see anything with his game that makes you second guess that belief before the year?
No, I absolutely think he gets back. As long as he gets to go to Augusta every year, he's going to have plenty of magic at that course for a very long time. And the same goes for the British Open, because he's has such a creative mind and sees the game kind of differently and can kind of will putts into the hole. It's been the putter for him that's gone cold this year, which is pretty shocking, because that was his, the magical club for him for such a long time. So if the putts start to fall again, his ball striking was a lot better. He's driving the ball better. That was kind of his biggest bugaboo for a while. So once the putter comes back around, I have no doubt he'll kind of be back in the top 10 in the world.
We'll end with this. What is the storyline that's got your attention over the next several weeks, months? In golf as a whole, it doesn't just be the PGA Tour, LIV, whatever it is. What has your attention right now?
Yeah, I think that's the number one story in the sport right now. It's amazing. We had like a little 4-day break from it where everyone was so thrilled that the Open was at St. Andrews, and Rory was in the mix, and it was all setting up to be this really nice fairy tale storyline. And then Cam Smith wins, and right in the press conference gets asked about LIV. So we're diving right back in head first to this storyline. We got the FedEx Cup coming up. Yeah, it's right back to the PGA Tour LIV whole debate right now.
Do you think that's appropriate to ask those guys that? Like at this, like is that something you're okay with?
I see both sides to the argument. I've seen on social media where it's the biggest moment of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the best time to bring up such a controversial topic that he's going to give a non-answer to, but at the same time, it's like, when are you gonna ask him? He's gonna ride off into the sunset for these next few weeks, take a few weeks off. Who knows when we'll see him again? Maybe FedEx Cup playoffs, maybe an event before that. So yeah, it's tough. That's an interesting debate as well.
There you go. Chris, what can we check out from you across Golf Digest and everything else this week?
Golfdigest.com. I'm always writing stuff there. Twitter at cpowers14, obviously, and then the Be Right podcast, where we talk a little gambling picks each week on the PGA Tour event.
There you go. Good luck the rest of the way, sir, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.